Well, here we go. Studio J in Atlanta. Got a pretty good doubleheader here.
I'm looking forward to both games tonight.
Sixers and the Pacers with Kevin Harlan. Reggie Miller going back to Indiana to call that game tonight with RGO, Rosgold and Woody. And then we got the Lakers and the Thunder. And here inside Studio J, Ernie Johnson.
Well, that's not a good one.
Shaquille O'Neal.
That's a beatdown.
Kenny Smith.
I miss you, Charles.
That's a beatdown.
Charles.
I haven't laughed since last.
Hey, let's enjoy this first game. That second game is going to be a ass-kicking.
You never know.
Yeah, you do know.
No,
Have you seen the Lakers play?
You never.
They lost to the Cavaliers the other night.
Yeah, you never.
And I must have been really bored to watch that game. We were texting each other. We were texting each other during the game.
Are you watching this?
Are you watching the Lakers against the Cavaliers? I mean, that's how bad our lives are right now.
That is a sad commentary on your life.
It was.
I thought you're better than
But I
that.
texted him. I was like, "Are you watching this game?" He's
I was
like,
texting each
he's
other?
like,
Yeah, we were. Because
I flew back with you. We had a different.
Oh, must be nice to have a private jet.
Yeah, you know.
Hey, that wasn't me, man. I'm on Delta, baby.
Hey, must be nice to have a big old private jet.
Yeah, it was nice.
So anyway, Philadelphia, Indiana. They've played twice already this year. Home team has not won a game yet, and Philadelphia embarking on a real interesting chunk of schedule right now. Next 12 games, all against teams with winning records. So here's what Philadelphia's got.
Yeah, that's it.
They got at Indiana tonight, then home with OKC, home with the Rockets, home with the Spurs, and then on the road to Denver, the Lakers, Golden State, Sacramento, and then back home for Toronto, Denver, the Lakers, and Boston.
Well, let me say this about the Sixers. They're not embarking on a trip. They're embarking on their season. Ernie, Kenny talks about it all the time. At some point, you have to figure out what you are. The Sixers are still fumbling around. Same thing with the Celtics. At some point during the season, we're coming up on the All-Star break. The Sixers got to figure out a pecking order. And this is going to be a make-or-break trip for them because when they come back,
a stretch of games, a stretch of 12 games.
But when you play against the elite teams, you can't be going into February and March trying to say, well, whose team is it? What type? Are we a defensive team? We're an offensive team?
Whose team is it, Kenny?
Well, this is what Shaq and I were just talking about.
Whose team is it?
We hate that phrase, whose team is it? You know, it's because if I average 18 rebounds, is it my team? If I average 12 assists, is it my team? If I average 30 points, is my team? Everyone has a job to do that they are really good at. This is what should happen. Ben Simmons creates the pace every time.
Yep.
He's the guy who's going to get the ball to create the pace of what it is. Offensively, we're going through Joel Embiid.
Yep.
And defensively, Jimmy Butler will secure and anchor everything out front. That's how we play.
Yeah, but
the problem.
That's how we play.
Go ahead, Shaq.
The problem with these teams, and I actually had this problem. Sometimes we worry about nonsense rather than having communications. Once Phil sat me and Kobe down and said, okay, Shaq, we're coming to you early, and if you're not hitting the free throws, Kobe's going to take over the game. Once I accepted that, see, we're not worried about the pecking order. Kobe's the man, I'm the man, we did it together. And like I was telling Kenny next door, forget the pecking order. The others also have to play well, but the guys have to keep the others involved. So I think the guys are worried about whose team is it and do this, that. Kenny, you make a great point. Ben, run. Get it to Embiid. Jimmy Butler, you take the last shot, and others, y'all got to step up.
And I always, as an other,
it's a simple game. That's how you win. It's a simple game.
I only respected the guy when he didn't say he was the guy.
Exactly.
When he told me he was the guy, I'm like, you ain't the guy.
Yeah.
You ain't the guy. If you got to tell me you the guy, you ain't the guy.
See, and
I would never relinquish my responsibility to him then. But if you show me through your work ethic and do what you do on the court, we can talk about that.
First of all, it's a great point. Both of y'all got great points. But two things. Number one, I ain't never going to call you
the guy.
And no, because you don't have to tell me. And I don't have to call you and say, hey, Charles, you're doing your job.
Right.
No, that's your damn job to be the leader. You don't have to tell me you're the leader. I don't have to call no other player and says, hey, I really appreciate what you taught me when I played with you. No, I followed you. But to get back to the original point, if Joel Embiid is still talking about shots, if Jimmy Butler is talking to the coach about, well, I'm not happy with my role, that's the problem with the Sixers. Brett Brown's got to sit them down and says, yo, Ben, I agree with Kenny. When we going fast, you're the guy. You get everybody involved. Joel Embiid, we're in the half court. We're going to go through you. Jimmy, you're a really good player. but we brought you here to help us win, not complain about how many touches you get and things like that.
Well, we got time. Let's check out Indiana, because this is a team that's been flying underneath that radar that's always talking about Toronto and Milwaukee and Boston and Philly, and they got the third best record in the Eastern Conference at 29-14. And Victor Oladipo's numbers are not as good as they were, but they're good enough. Miles Turner has seemed to improve. Domantas Sabonis might be the sixth man of the year.
They're really good, Ernie, to collectively.
Yeah.
And the issue is, at one point, if you watch a game, as great as Victor Oladipo is, and he's a heck of a talent, but when he plays against the elite team, they don't have the best player on the floor. That's what scares everyone else to say, well, we're going with Indiana. Because when you play against Milwaukee Bucks, Giannis is the best player on the floor. When you play against Toronto Raptors, Kawhi is the best. When you play in the Western Conference, we can go down the line as well. So all of a sudden, your best player sometimes isn't the best player on the court. So collectively, they do it. And can you believe in a collection? Well, and that's when it comes down to a play or two in a game.
Other than the coach in Brooklyn, Nate McMillan has done a fantastic job. And
Kenny Atkinson.
Kenny Atkinson, he's done because the Nets they've been fantastic all year. Sean Marks. Oh, no, I'm talking about in the East.
Oh, in the East, okay.
Mike Malone. First of all, I got to call out my Denver Nuggets too tonight.
Okay.
But Mike Malone has done a fantastic
Tired of talking about your Nuggets every week.
Ernie, I was so pissed the other night at the Nuggets.
But they're 7 out of the last 10 games.
No. When a guy, Kenny, you know, Shaq, you know this. There's big.
The Nuggets playing tonight?
No, but they got big games. There's big games. Am I right?
Right.
Oh, they got smacked.
And the Warriors came to their house, slapped them, beat their kids up, took their lunch money, and left. You cannot do that.
Oh yeah, I see how it man up. Okay.
That's my man Serge. He's the Sixers masseuse.
Anytime he's eating grapes and getting massage on a court,
I would hope he is
playing. You know he's